following video is sponsored by NordVPN. Outside of my numerous Zelda timeline videos on the races of Hyrule and the legend itself, this is the first time I make a video with multiple Zelda theories in one, but the E3 2021 Breath of the Wild 2 teaser just begs for it. Thus, I decided to focus on the Trinity, the Triforce, its representation of power Ganondorf, wisdom the bloodline of Zeldas, and courage the spirits of Link's, and a little surprise which ties back to all four in the end. So be sure to leave a like to show that you want more videos like this one, subscribe to help us towards 300,000 subscribers, and press that notification bell.
The Triforce of Courage, the divine relic with which the Master Sword has been required to defeat Ganondorf in all past confrontations. This symbol of the hero of Hyrule was never wielded by Link in Breath of the Wild, and it could be for a good reason, as the last one to wield it could still have it in his right hand, and would have been stuck to Ganondorf until now. A right hand which then fuses to become a part of Link, and what do we most often see on the Master Sword hand of the hero of Hyrule? The mark of, or the Triforce of Courage itself. Interestingly, we see gold-yellow light from Link's new right arm, and a hint of it coming from the right edge of his right hand. So does this hand hold the Triforce of Courage, or at least the essence of it?
For now, we don't know, as it could just be the replacement of the stasis rune of the likely gone Sheikah Slate, but the lack of the Triforce of Courage is fascinating in this era when Ganondorf has been present the entire time deep beneath the ground, possibly with what remains of the last hero of Hyrule before Breath of the Wild Link. So far, the closest we have been to the Triforce in the Breath of the Wild saga is Princess Zelda and her awakened power, but is this one just a Triforce of Wisdom or the complete Triforce? On top of that, you have the green clothing in the sky scenes, with what appears to be multiple Triforce symbols on it. Is that the tunic of the hero of the distant past? Which brings us to the next theory. Theory 2, distant past hero versus ancient past champion. This one will be a brief one, but it has to be addressed once and for all, as there are way too many misconceptions going on when it comes to this one. In reality, it is simple. Green, the Age of Heroes, versus blue, the Age of Champions. The green tunic is exclusively reserved for heroes, as we clearly saw that we had to complete all the ancient Sheikah Shrine trials to obtain our own green hero set of the wild. Before this point in liberating Princess Zelda or clearing Monk Master Koshia's final trial, Link was still a champion, but on the hero's path. A path that the other blue champion fighting the previous calamity 10,000 years ago never followed, since he and his Zelda were victorious against the calamity.
The hero we should be talking about is the last one that fought Ganondorf, not his calamities. One who likely followed the hero's path in the sky, which Link of the Era of the Wild will now have to complete in the tunic of the distant past, not the champion tunic of the ancient past that he wears on the surface and underground. So be sure to spread the word. Green is hero versus Ganondorf. Blue is champion versus Ganondorf's calamity. The hero has not been present with Ganondorf on Hyrule's surface for tens of thousands of years. Instead, we have had champions fighting calamities. Well, until Champion Link 100 years after the previous calamity was victorious and was proclaimed as the hero of Hyrule by Zelda. And since we are on the topic of the princess, don't let yourself be knocked out like she was by Ganondorf underground, as he thinks there are too many Links. And just as Link has obtained his new arm with cool abilities against the forces of malice, you can take back control of your internet experience with NordVPN on up to 6 of mobile and desktop devices on one account.
It also allows me, by using a US server, to use streaming services like Hulu, which isn't available outside the US and Japan, or watch the Tokyo 2020 Olympics and other sports events in all languages I desire, and also watch the action abroad now that travel is becoming a reality again, all by selecting the right country server I want to connect to and be fully secure while surfing or streaming at home or public Wi-Fi with next generation encryption on all of NordVPN's servers around the world. And right now you can get a 2-year plan at a huge discount by heading over to nordvpn.com/Commonwealth and use code Commonwealth to get an additional bonus gift which ranges from 1 to 4 additional free months. It's completely risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So head over to nordvpn.com/Commonwealth and be secure against hackers like Ganondorf against Princess Zelda. Speaking of, Theory 3, Zelda's Fall Underground. I want us to explore Zelda's fall in Breath of the Wild sequel, and how it is near identical to Zelda's fall from the sky in Skyward Sword. Since no, Zelda of the Era of the Wild did by all accounts not die in that cave and fall. just like Zelda of the Era of the Sky did not die in her fall from Skyloft to the surface. But Zelda fell in that game from the sky for a reason, as someone tried to capture her. And it could be similar in this case as well. You see, Princess Zelda has ended up as Ganondorf's captive towards the end of every Zelda game, where Ganondorf occupied Hyrule, Ocarina of Time, The Wind Waker, and Twilight Princess. But let's remember, what is the theme of the Breath of the Wild games? Challenging established conventions. This idea has been there for close to 9 years now, at least since series producer Eiji Aonuma revealed their goal for the future of Zelda in the January 2013 Nintendo Direct.
The Zelda team has since then teased us numerous times with the fact that the princess is more than just a damsel in these games, as she is fiercely independent, articulate, determined, intelligent, and most of all, a courageous member of the royal family. She has seen the fall of her kingdom, was there when Link lost his consciousness and confronted the calamity head-on for a century. Then, in the ending of Breath of the Wild, it was she who finished off Dark Beast Ganon. Don't underestimate Zelda of the Wild, who has battle experience and insane power levels when she unleashes the divine power that is within her. The power of the goddess Hylia, passed down to her through her bloodline. If anything, Zelda and her new adventurous look is an indication that she is heading for an adventure of her own, much like Skyward Sword's Zelda of the Sky did below her starting point in the game, and thus have possible brief but playable sections which could mark for some of the best gameplay moments in the entire game. Combat Mode Zelda Deep Underground.
So if Zelda is still on the ground, then where is Ganondorf? In the floating or elevated Hyrule Castle, which brings us to Theory 4, Ganondorf's plan for Hyrule and the castle. Ganondorf, through the last calamity 100 years ago, has already eradicated around 90% of the Hylians that used to live in the lands of the now fallen kingdom. Its heartland with its former capital is in complete ruins, with the exception of the brief liberation of the land by Link and Zelda has been under Ganondorf's control for the last century. Needless to say, the weakened Hylian race with no manpower or ability to build a military force and no longer a threat to him, well, with the exception of Link and his new hand, which Ganondorf was roommate with for tens of thousands of years. At last, free after being nailed down in the distant past, Ganondorf can once again make moves that aren't scheming calamities from his head and instead can indulge in the luxuries of his castle. Ganondorf is a monarch, a very old school one who has an iron fist tyrannical approach, but who still is capable to ally with those who want to loyally serve him. I mean, be his lackey. We saw this in Ocarina of Time with Ingo and the Gerudo, in the Wind Waker with his intentions, and in Twilight Princess with his ally Sans.
Now that he is free and in command from his castle, the time has come to conquer the parts of Hyrule which held their ground against the Guardians 100 years ago. That means war against the tribes that will never take his side against the hero of Hyrule, Link. The remaining Hylian settlements, the Kakariko Shika, Zora Kingdom, Goron City, Rito Village, and even his own people in Gerudo Town. Though in every land under the right circumstances, you will find traitors, and it wouldn't surprise me that beside the Yiga, Ganondorf might be able to sway some of his Gerudo people back to his side, after deposing a certain child chieftain, all to get him closer to his ultimate goal, claim the complete Triforce and rule unopposed. Let's remember, Ganondorf is a master manipulator, cunning like no other villain in the series. That is how he has brought the kingdom of Hyrule to its knees time and time again. And to oppose this force of power, the hero had to build his courage, strength, and arsenal in
dungeons. Dungeons, and once again, dungeons. The biggest missing Zelda structure in Breath of the Wild, which has been with us in past Zelda games for over 35 years. Dungeons. And what do we see in the sky sections? Temple-like structures and torii gates, which mark the border between the earthly and divine realm of the Kami or Shinto gods. The divine border marks the Shinto shrines, just like the many I visited while in Tokyo and Kyoto in 2019. So here is the theory. During a professional guided trip by a Kyoto resident around its Buddhist temples and Shinto shrines, I was told that the Japanese go through stages when it comes to their ritual life. Before your retirement age, most solely follow the Shinto traditions of living in harmony with your ancestors, nature, and the 8 million Kami gods while living here on this earth. It is just as death approaches, some elderly Japanese tend to go over from attending solely Shinto shrines to also attending Buddhist temples in the hope for a good reincarnation and another life after this one. So in simple terms, you can say that Shinto is the rituals of life, while Buddhism is the religion of death.
This way, Shintoism, indigenous to the Japanese mainland, and Buddhism, imported from mainland Asia, blend naturally together. Shrines and temples, life on Earth and the afterlife or next life. In Breath of the Wild, the Sheikah shrines were earthly structures, as we could clearly see their locations from a distance, minus the shrine quests obviously. The structures we see in the sky, however, are high above the ground, heavenly and likely tied to the realm of gods beyond the Torii-like gates. And behind them again, massive temple-like structures, our closest indication of temples or dungeons so far. But where there is good, there is also evil, and it could be found deep in the dark underground, where the opposite of divine temples or trials might await.
But you know what? That is enough for one video. So if you want to see more videos like this one, then be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the Commonwealth Realm, and press the notification bell on our push towards 300,000 subscribers. A big thanks goes to all our patreon.com/CommonRealm patrons, and in particular our royal producer Charles Shush, you rock, and also to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. And enjoy one or both of these two awesome videos.